It's a moment in history. With the passing of the Queen, we're also getting a unique glimpse inside the royal family. As the world mourns a monarch, a family is still mourning the loss of a much-loved mother and grandmother.
As I stand before you today, I cannot help but feel the weight of history which surrounds us.
In private grief, a very public spectacle, as the Queen's 4 children follow her funeral cortege down Edinburgh's Royal Mile.
Deeply moving, solemn, emotional. Yeah, it was a very special moment.
Standing guard at the coffin, Princess Anne making history as the first woman to join the vigil of the princes.
It's difficult to into words, the emotion is just too much.
The public filing past in their thousands, paying final respects.
And then to see her lying in state like that, just the awe of it all.
But not everyone was so moved. In all, 3 protesters arrested in a sea of mourning Scots. King Charles affirming the Crown's dedication to the Northern Realm.
I take up my new duties with thankfulness for all that Scotland has given me.
The King's journey continues in Northern Ireland tonight, while the Crown added more Aussies to the Queen's funeral delegation.
It was a request from the palace that 10 everyday citizens be invited to the Queen's funeral.
Australians of the Year and local heroes will join the Prime Minister, Governor-General and the High Commissioner in London, Dylan Alcott among them.
When I told my mum last night that I was getting to meet you, she cried. So how cool is that?
The Queen's coffin will be flown to London tonight, where it will be met by her children again at Buckingham Palace, before lying in state at Westminster Hall for 4 days.
You'll not get anywhere near Westminster Abbey. We were told this probably would be the best place to be.
Loyal subjects already lining up to file past the coffin, a million mourners expected to queue for a final farewell to their beloved Queen.
It's just an instant decision. I thought I'll get the position and I will make sure that I will get my chance to pay respect to the great lady.
And our UK correspondent Lucy McDonald joins me now live here in London. Lucy, just behind us is Westminster Hall, where from tomorrow night London time people will be able to walk past and view the coffin of the Queen. We know that crowds are already starting to build down the end of the boardwalk here at Southgate. People are just going to be determined to get a spot, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first person was here 53 hours before the lying in state actually opens. So the first people are queuing just up there at that bridge, and they'll be coming all the way down here. Now, crowds at St Giles Cathedral in Scotland, where the Queen is currently lying in state, people have been waiting around 4 or 5 hours. Interestingly, this morning at about 4 a.m. there was a lull and people only had to queue between 1 and 2 hours. So I thought, maybe that would be a good idea for me to come and see the Queen lie in state. But I think the situation in London is going to be pretty extreme. I think lots of people are expected.
Lucy, it's Kate here. There was an awkward moment during the procession yesterday where someone very loudly expressed their feelings towards Prince Andrew. Was that inevitable?
Well, we saw Andrew yesterday, the only one of his siblings in normal dress, the other 3 in their military wear. So he has already, I guess, been marked out in this in the funeral run-up. Was it inevitable? Actually, it was one voice of dissent in a very peaceful crowd. It was a very quiet crowd. So you really heard that person very, very loudly. What do we know about them? They are 22 years old. They've been arrested for breach of the peace. They were pretty quickly and deftly sort of thrown to the ground, and the police were there immediately. I think they thought that they were actually protesting in quite a quiet manner, but we don't know much more about them yet.
Well, I did notice that he seemed to be wearing a Melbourne City top, like an Australian football club, which led, I think, everyone in Australia to assume that this was our contribution to the mourning that was going on. Is he even Australian? Do we know that?
His voice didn't sound Australian. We don't know anything about him, whether it was a coincidence that he was wearing that top, whether it was planned. I doubt it, but I'm sure we'll find out more in the coming days.
It's certainly the crowd that was around him when that kerfuffle happened and they wrestled him to the ground. Security hadn't turned up yet, but the people around made it absolutely clear that they did not support what that man had said. And then immediately a chant went up, "Long live the King." So
Absolutely.
the crowds were making it clear how they felt and why they were there.
You felt the police were actually rescuing him from the crowds. Who knows what would have happened if the police hadn't been there? They were on him so quickly.
Now, the King is headed for Northern Ireland today. Do you think he'll get a warm welcome there?
Well, I think they're expecting crowds. There were floral tributes there already. I think he's already visited Northern Ireland 40 times. So it'll be interesting to see what the reception is like. It's a pretty gruelling tour for him of the four nations. So he'll be there later today. There are some people in Northern Ireland who like the monarchy, some people less so. I think people are expecting that political opponents are going to put aside their differences to mark the death of the Queen.
As you say, his schedule is gruelling at the moment. How much is that dedication that he's showing to getting on with the job is contributing to what seems to be a really growing level of support for him?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a huge level of support for him. Yesterday in Scotland, he was speaking about this, about how he was busy, but it was the sense of duty that got him through. But I expected when Queen Elizabeth died that people wouldn't be as willing to accept Charles. But on the contrary, I think people were talking about there was going to be this national crisis of identity. But actually, I think people have really warmed to him and almost want to be led by him. So it's not what many expected.
Well, if you want a spot in the queue, it's just up there.
See you later.
Great to see you.